Okay, it's now about 1:30. I haven't done any reading, but I have been planning the POC recommendations, which has been a lot of fun. And now I'm going to go into the house, and I have a live show later on, and I will catch up with you guys later. Bye. So just excuse my hair. I don't know what's going on with it. I don't like it at all. Anyways, I made food. It was really good. And I had a nap. It's around 5:40, so I need to be quick because I have a live show in about 20 minutes for Demigods Anonymous, which is exciting. I always love getting together and just talking to Margaret and Kenzie. They're some of my favorite people. You should check them out if you don't already watch them. I'm about 3.5 hours into Astonishing Color of After. I'm really enjoying the discussion around grief and depression and suicide and the idea that like you don't always know or are prepared for like what is going to happen, like especially that idea that she was doing better before she committed suicide, because that's something that is very prevalent in a lot of mental health things. A lot of times a sign of people actually thing is because they start feeling up to doing stuff and then but they still have depression, so then they have enough energy to commit suicide, and that's something that's very prevalent and not talked about enough in literature. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the conversation about race, because she's half Taiwanese, half Irish, and she's visiting Taiwan. And one of my closest friends since high school, she's full Chinese. Well, she's done a DNA test and it keeps on changing because that's part of like her figuring out who she is. But she was adopted from China when she was 2, and like a big part of her story is like feeling like she's not Asian enough, she's not white enough because she's from a white family, and is very disconnected. Like her parents tried, but they weren't intimately known with Chinese culture and stuff, so a lot of the stuff that they introduced to her was very surface level. And even like it talks about her like learning nihama and like how to say hello and stuff like that, and that's really funny. It made my heartstrings pull because when we were 15 or so, we had lots of other Chinese students. My school was very international, but one of them, we asked how to like speak Chinese things, and we were both terrible at learning Mandarin, but one thing that always stuck with me was nihama. So I love my friend so much, but whenever she would do like struggle with that, she'd be like, English is not my first language. I was like, you learned English when you were 2. And she was like, nihama, I speak Mandarin. So I was like, we both know that. So that was always like an inside joke that like we would always say nihama to each other and stuff. So I'm probably also butchering the pronunciation of hello, how are you? But a big part of it is just her like feeling disconnected from her culture and stuff like that. So I really related to that in regards to friends, and I have a few other biracial friends as well that I've really talked to a lot about like feeling like they're disconnected from both cultures and not really sure which ones they fit into. So that's something that I know that is very prevalent in biracial families and biracial people and people that are taken out of what their culture is. So I really appreciated that conversation. I think that some of the aspects talking around suicide can be a little bit problematic. I think that the romance is unneeded, and other than that, yeah, I'm really excited to see where else it goes. It's only 3.5 hours. It has another 8.5 to go. So I am excited. I don't think that it's going to be a favorite. I think that it's a little bit too repetitive for my liking, but the writing is beautiful, and I love the fact that color is used as emotion. That is also really cool. She's really, really cute. Isn't she? She's just sitting here and purring. Look at her. Are you going to try to kiss me? I don't want that. No, it's a video. Okay, I'm really, really happy. I know it's probably like, I celebrate everything because it makes me really happy. I just got to 620 subscribers, which I've always said that like since I hit 500 that was just astronomical for me. I just never really expected 500 people to watch me, and 600 was even weirder. 620. It's so cool to just like slowly but surely like move up. I know like a lot of people like hit that within like a few months or even like a month sometimes. Like I've been doing this for a lot longer for like my viewer count, but I'm still so appreciative. It just makes me really happy, and I feel like as I've gone on, like I've grown on into feeling more comfortable, because I felt like so afraid and like self-conscious during a lot of my time as a booktuber, and I feel like as I've gone on, I've felt a little bit more at home, and I really appreciated that. I have not done any reading since the last time I checked in, I think. I ended up hanging out with one of my roommates. We bought alcohol, we drank alcohol, we watched The Flash, we cried and talked about emotions. It was a really good night. And it's now around 11:30. I might read some more. I might try to read the rest of The Little Mermaid because I haven't picked that up since the first day. It should be the one that is sitting in all one spot. And I think then if I finish Astonishing Color of After on tomorrow or on my drive to Ottawa, I should be able to complete all prompts. I need to also correct I have not updated anything on the Reading Rush the whole time. So I need to kind of cement what I'm going to choose for my prompts so that I can actually put in the badges so that I can get them, which is amazing. And yeah, I will check in a little while. I don't think I'm going to bed quite yet. So I will talk to you guys later. So it's now around 12:30. I wanted to do more reading. I ended up falling asleep while listening to the audiobook for Astonishing Color After. So I now have about 5 hours left. It is really good. I am really getting the vibe, like the out of water, fish out of water, and the idea that of like family and what that means, which is really good. And yeah, I am going to go sleep now. I have an early morning tomorrow, and I will see you guys tomorrow. This was a very bad reading vlog. Hi, so it's now about 1:30 on Sunday. I think this is going to be a continuation from my Saturday vlog simply because that was really, really short. But I just got back from church. I was really, really tired. I had a weird, like, paralysis thing this morning. I often get, like, sleep paralysis or whatever when I wake up, where I'm unable to, like, move my body. So that was not fun at all. So I just ended up, like, laying in bed for, like, 3 hours and unable to move. So I'm a little bit nervous because I have to drive today and I need to leave, but I'm gonna pack. I was watching AuthorTube, and I was watching Margaret because, you know, I love Margaret and Alyssa J. They're both incredible, and they did a collab with the AuthorTube newbie tag, which I did 2 years ago. Have I done any AuthorTube videos? Like 3? I think I'm gonna redo it just simply because put myself back out there. I have a lot of ideas and scripted videos already. I'm just very nervous often about feeling like I'm not accomplished enough in order to do those videos. I think I'm going to listen to my audiobook when I do that, and I'm just going to take it chill. I'm going to leave in about 3 or 4 hours, and I'm going to drive, so I have a little bit of time to burn. You know, I have to wait until Toronto is, like, less busy to drive through it. So I don't know why just now it's kind of hitting me really emotionally. Obviously the book begins with the suicide of her mother, so you would think that would be the most emotional, like, thread. But as it goes on, it's giving you flashbacks into her mother, and parts of it really feature on her mom being sick and having depression, and it being a very unsaid thing, and that's hitting me a lot because mental health is a really prevalent thing in my own family, but it's not something that is discussed a lot, and it's definitely not discussed openly, and it's something that in my life I've struggled with since I can remember, and it's really just hitting me hard to see how depression affects people that don't have depression, I guess. And I've never really considered that, because for my worldview has always been so tainted by depression that I'm unable to see past that, if that makes sense. Like, I'm luckily able to, majority of my life, have like a very functional depression, as in, that's a very technical term, but it determined, like, you deal with depression, but it's not necessarily always debilitating like everyone, and mental health can be very much like that, and that's something, so I've had it my entire life, and yet I've had really dark moments, but through the majority of my time, it hasn't been a place where it's kept me from doing things, if that's explainable, I guess. It has, like, I don't know, just, and it's not that I'm, like, unaware, like, I'm able to see happiness and see those things, but the idea of a life without depression is something that I can't fully understand because it's something that I've never experienced. From my earliest memories, I've always been depressed. So seeing the view of what it's like to love someone with depression is incredibly painful for myself, because I know people that love me that don't have depression, and have to see me deal with it, I guess, is something I've never really thought about, I guess. That sounds really selfish, but it's very difficult and hard. And mental health books that deal with someone mental health outside of the person, it's sometimes difficult but really needed, because mental health is so prevalent in our society, and yet it's not every person. I think that everyone deals with mental health, but not everyone deals with like chronic mental health. That's not everyone's story, which is wonderful. But it is needed to like see the effects that it has on that family. One of my favorite books that I read 2 years ago, I really need to reread it because I loved it. It was one of the first books I ever read on BookTube, and it's The Mystery of Hollow Places, which deals with how mental health is like the influences of a girl and her parents' mental health. And that was incredibly emotional, and the description of that depression really hit home on me. And there's not a lot of evocative things that are, because it's not really depression and stuff like that isn't said. It's very unsaid in this book, which kind of bothers me, but also I can see that things, because it's very obvious that her mom is struggling with depression, and yet a lot of that isn't said, and it's aggravating because I've seen that so much, and then I also know it's realistic. It's frustrating. So frustrating. But yeah, it's giving me a lot to think about, the way that I view depression in regards to like society and family, and that, because I've always thought about it, how it influences me and my thoughts of family and my thoughts of like even having a family and all of that, but I've never necessarily thought about it just in general, like loved ones. Anyways, that's my depressing thoughts for now. So today's challenge is to recommend your favorite book that has ever been recommended to you. And for personal, I have to recommend The Demon King, or The Seven Realms by Cinda Williams-Chima. This was recommended to me by my sister. She often just reads books and tells me to read them, and I do the same for her. She takes my advice a little bit less, but I really enjoyed this. Its writing style, the world, everything about it is one of my favorite. It's really underrepresented. I can know 3 authors or 3 booktubers who talk about it. It's myself, Jasana, Elliot, who was made to read it by Jasana, and Regan from Proust Project. Those are the only 3 people like I've ever really heard talk about it. I always like kind of scream inside whenever I hear another person talk about it. It is incredibly it follows a former like gang leader and street thief and a princess from a queendom. And it's just well developed and has a lot of fragmented stories, and just, it's a little bit older. I think it's 2009, 2010, but it doesn't read tropey, and that's what I love about it. It feels really unique. It is a slow start, but once you get into it, I promise you, it's fantastic. The twists, the turns, I adore it. I really need to reread this series. Before BookTube, back in 2016, I read this entire series, which consists of 4 books that are each like 500 and some pages, in 1 week while babysitting. I found out creative ways in order to read this out loud to 2 and a 4-year-old creatively, because I wanted to read it while working. Like, I was like nannying for like 12 hours. So I was like, I need to read this. And I think I read it pretty much like a book a day, like a book a day and a half or so, which I'm a slow reader, so that's impressive. I love it. And then for just like a booktuber thing, and probably more impactful than that, but just very impactful in my own personal life, when I was just starting BookTube, I got a recommendation based on the video by Emma Books, and she recommended What I Lost by Alexandra Ballard. She called it like the most impactful and the best done mental health book she'd ever read, and I can agree. For someone who also has an eating disorder, it is incredible to see that in the process of getting better, and it is so medical, as in like it's very sound medically, and just goes through a lot of like the fact that you often relapse, and just, I do have a few issues. I do have a review. It was the very first review I ever did, so it's cringy, and I've talked about it in other places as well, but it is such an impactful book for me, and just, it's the only book that I've seen that has like adequately described my eating disorder in a way that makes sense, and I can say, yes, this is what I feel like, and this is what it feels like to have an eating disorder. And it's a really personal book for me. It's another book that I really want to reread, and I'll probably do a better review of. But yeah, thank you, Emma, for that, and thank you, my sister, for the Seven Realms, because both of them are really incredible. Hello, guys. We're just gonna pretend like my shirt doesn't have holes in it because it's one of my favorites and it's aesthetic, right? It's a purpose. So I'm gonna do the challenge for yesterday just because I didn't do it because I was really, really tired, and I want to do it because it's really fun. You have to spell out your name using the spine's first letter and the same color. It is a little bit harder because K isn't a super common first letter. Although thank you to Shami Chaval, who is an indie author who sent me her book, which I've just began, and it's really, really good. And it's called Nightmare Arcanus, and the knight has the K on it. So I'm gonna do that, and those are black. So I'm gonna start, and I have 2 minutes. I don't have a thing, but it's like my viewfinder clock is like really small, so I'm gonna try. Ready, set, go. Oh, and we have Nightmare Arcanus. I also have my full name because I'm not really completely. Oh, question. Where's the Emma? Already blue, but black on. Why do I have names? Why didn't my parents love me when they said to me? I don't have either. Do I have an ebook? That's not how it was. No. Do I have one here? That I can go off screen. Guys, I don't have an ebook. Okay, I'm just catchy and grab Emma. Pretty sure all this is easier. Okay, R, this should be easier. R. No, give it 30 seconds. Okay. R. Oh, okay. Easier. It's easier. S. Okay, 30 seconds. S. Why is it so hard? Why do I have such a name? A little while, but I actually accomplished it. So I have Nightmare Arcanist, which is about a gravedigger who wants to be a knight, I think. That's gonna be loud, I'm sorry. I have Incarceration, which is about a science fiction dystopian about a prison war, and this person who is the daughter of it's like a prisoner and the daughter of the prison warden. This is Emma, which is by Jane Austen, which is looking at a girl who thinks she's a matchmaker and like is so good at everything, but is actually like not that great, and I love it. It makes me so happy to think about it. I have Return to the King, which I've never read and totally starts with an R, and it is about finding the Lord of the Rings and returning to Mordor. I've never read this. This is what I basically know. Then I have S, which is Samurai. This is a history of samurai. I'm guessing that it's about Japanese culture and the rise of their very common warrior type. I can talk. Then I have Tess of the D'Urville's? I'm terrible. I know French fairly well. This is a depressing tragedy about a girl, and it has like a lot of sad stuff in it. That's primarily what I know. Then I have this book. That is also totally black, and it's The Element Encyclopedia of the Celtics, depending on how you want to pronounce it. It's an encyclopedia about the Celtics. And then last but not least, I have Northanger Abbey, which is like parody of Gothic novels by Jane Austen. And that's my challenge today. After so long, it feels very strange to be ending this. I've never really vlogged that much consistently, so it's really weird to be vlogging for 7 days and then to be like, okay, it's done. So this, I think, is my very first reading rush where I haven't completed everything. I forget on everything. I did the best on challenges than I ever have because I did all 7 video challenges. And I read 5 books. I just finished The Astonishing Color of After. I could finish Little Mermaid in maybe the next 20 minutes, but I really need to drive 6 hours because I'm intelligent, and yeah, I just was feeling like very emotional and very just like, I don't know, and very energized. I was feeling like very creative, so I didn't want to be driving. But I have my coffee, and I'm going to drive through this night like an intelligent human being. And I will, I guess this will be the end. My final thoughts on Astonishing Color of After. I liked it more than I really thought I was going to, I guess. It ended up being a 3-star, which is a really good rating for me. Like, the majority of my books get 2 stars. And I thought it was going to be 2-star, but I think the discussion around depression and suicide and grief and family, and I love the fact that it tied into the Buddhist religion and just like the way of life, and it really touched the aspect of what would it be like if we had a chance to see our family's real thoughts. You know what I mean? Because that's the pleasure of books, that you're able to see many people's point of views, which you don't really get to see in real life. Like, some people will open up and tell you your experiences, but to actually relive people's experiences, to understand what led to things, is a really important thing that you just don't often get. And Emily Pan has an author's note where she kind of discusses the fact that she's been writing the novel since 2010, and it went through many drafts, but in 2014 she lost a family member to suicide, and that really threaded itself into the novel. And I think she also talked about how, like, her family had depression and mental health in it and didn't talk about it, and it became, because the stigma really affected her family, and that's something I can really relate to. And you can see the realness to her discussion of what it's like to have mental health in the family, which I just really appreciate. I also appreciate that, like, she brought it with a nuance and brought it from a place of self. There's a quote at the end, there's colors of after, there's the colors of now. And I think that's a really evocative quote to kind of talk about the fact that you can find solace and contentment and be okay with grief and moving on from death, but it's never quite going to be the same. You have the colors that are very different, and I think that Pan was really able to show emotion through colors. It's a very character-driven novel, which I really, really appreciate. And I wasn't a big fan of the romance. By the end, I actually was on board with it. I think that it really discussed a lot about friendship and family and, like, what is the nature of love, and that was really cool to see. I love that it was character driven, and I think it was a really well done novel, and I'm really excited to see what else she does in the future, because this was her very first novel. So I completed 5 books, can I count? So I think I completed all the prompts. I think non-human character. Do I have that? You consider, like, people with buttons for fingers, or like people that aren't alive? That counts? Maybe in Reaper at the Gates. Yeah, I'm not sure. And I never watched the adaptation. I read multiple books that have adaptations and never watched it. I didn't really watch any TV this week except for Young Justice. I wasn't really into TV watching. I'm finally feeling better. I think the cold medicine finally kicked in, and the coffee, and just all of that. So I am really happy that I got to live this experience, even though, yeah, even though I didn't succeed wildly. It was still really great. And I might vlog a little bit more now because I like it. Anyways, thank you for joining me on this week, and happy reading and writing. Tell me what your favorite part of the reading rush was. Did you contribute? Did you come? Did you read? Anyways, happy reading and writing, and I will see you next time.